According to CIA Director William Burns, Russia's difficulties in Ukraine will probably have an impact on how and when China intends to enter Taiwan. At the Aspen Security Forum, Burns told NBC that the Chinese might have taken away important lessons from the conflict. Furthermore, he predicted that the strategic failure of Russian President Vladimir Putin in Ukraine and the weak performance of Russian troops have certainly disturbed the Chinese. However, despite these worries, Burns cautioned against underestimating Xi Jinping's intention to establish China's dominance over Taiwan. Eager to know more about what happens if China invades Taiwan? Stay tuned till the end of the video. CIA Director Bill Burns batted down rumors that Chinese President Xi Jinping would invade Taiwan, following a significant Communist Party meeting later this year when he spoke at the Aspen Security Forum. The risks of that become higher, it seems to us, the further into this decade that you get, Burns said, adding, "I wouldn't underestimate President Xi's determination to assert China's control over self-ruling Taiwan." According to Liz Truss, a Chinese invasion of Taiwan would be a catastrophic miscalculation. She warned at the NATO summit that the UK and other nations should reevaluate their trade relations with nations who employ economic power and coercive methods. The British Foreign Secretary said trade should be focused on nations that could be trusted, a reflection of how dramatically UK official policies toward China have changed. Speaking at the Madrid conference, Truss suggested that the new NATO strategic concept should specifically mention China as it raises its geopolitical aspirations. The primary mission of the alliance was last updated in 2010, and a revision is forthcoming. I do think that with China extending its influence through economic coercion and building a capable military, there is a real risk that they draw the wrong idea that results in a catastrophic miscalculation such as invading Taiwan, Truss said, speaking along with Alexander De Croo, the Prime Minister of Belgium, and Anthony Albanese, the Prime Minister of Australia. The efforts to provide more Western infrastructure funding for developing countries were one of the topics covered at the G7 summit in southern Germany, which ended earlier this week. This was done in response to China's Belt and Road Initiative, which aims to gain influence through comparable investment. She said that the G7 nations and countries like Australia must use their economic weight to push China, and that the UK might even change how it handles trades with Beijing. While on the other hand, Burns said, "Our sense is that it probably affects less the question of whether the Chinese leadership might choose some years down the road to use force to control Taiwan, but how and when they would do it." He claimed that China is thought to have learned from the Ukrainian conflict that underwhelming force doesn't produce rapid, decisive victories. The need to control the information space and to do all you can to strengthen your economy against the threat for sanctions are likely other lessons China has likely learned. Burns also said that despite rhetorical support, Washington does not think Beijing is providing military assistance to Russia. He claimed that China has increased its purchases of Russian energy, but is being cautious to avoid coming under Western sanctions. China views Taiwan as a portion of its land and has to be united, possibly through force. After having lost the civil war on the mainland, defeated nationalists from China escaped to Taiwan in 1949, but the territory has since grown into a thriving democracy and a dominant technical force. Qin Gang, China's ambassador to the United States, declared that Beijing still favored peaceful reunification. However, he said that the US was backing independence forces in Taiwan, where President Tsai Ing-wen has demanded a separate identity for the island. When Washington transferred its recognition from Taipei to Beijing in 1979, Congress established legislation requiring the US to give Taiwan weapons for its defense. In May, US President Joe Biden appeared to resolve the long-standing US ambiguity on whether it would intervene militarily by saying that the US was prepared to use force to protect Taiwan from a Chinese invasion. However, the White House swiftly took back his remarks. So guys, that's pretty much of it. I hope you liked the video. Don't forget to check out more interesting videos on our channel. See you in our next video. Till then, take care.